for the views and opinions expressed by its presenters or guests. J-Air presents a wide variety of views and opinions, which is to the benefit and purpose of community radio.
Right stuff. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Harry and Rabbi Pesach back in the cupboard. Yes, we have just assumed your genders, and how are we, Rabbi?
Hello, Rabbi Harry. Hello, Harry.
I am far from it.
Happy Australia Day!
And to you.
It's a big day today because finally I think some people are realising that Australia Day is something to be celebrated. And there are some people who are still in that, back in the 2010s, when we went through all that rubbish about how Australia Day was Invasion Day.
I think the rubbish is getting worse.
I haven't heard anything about
clearly
Invasion Day yet.
You have spent the day living under a rock. It has been absolutely everywhere. It has been all over radio, newspapers, social media, people posting up how I would like to recognise our Indigenous, they're now First Nations people as the traditional owners of the land, and every post I've seen like that, I just go, and you're going to give the title of your house to whom? I do not know. I think it's getting worse, and I really don't understand how we've allowed Australia Day to be usurped in such a way, because if it's the commemoration of an anniversary, well, it's not the anniversary of the landing of the First Fleet, because that actually happened on the 18th of January. It's not the commemoration of any anniversary when Captain Cook got here, because he arrived in April.
It's a problem because this day is a random, arbitrary day.
Well, yeah, for the most part. So this is the day that the First Fleet anchored in Botany Bay. It's not the first time they anchored in Australia.
Oh, I see. When they came back and brought, and what did they bring convicts with them on the very first
on the First Fleet? Yes.
Did they?
That
on
was
the very first fleet.
That was the whole purpose of the First Fleet. But then again, as I say, that just proves the English are arguably the most stupid race of people ever to have existed on the face of the earth. Because let's be honest, if they had any brains, they would have left the convicts over there, and they would have come out here and spent the rest of their days in paradise.
I did something thoroughly un-Australian on Australia Day.
What'd you do?
I worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I took the opportunity to
Mind you, some people would wonder about the definition of that word work, and what I was doing is defined as work. I'm not sure.
Oh, you were paid to be at someone else's wedding or the
something
mitzvah
like that.
or yeah. Oh, well, hey, you know what? Good work if you can get it.
And what were you doing?
I decided to take the opportunity to go in and work on one of my own vehicles today because...
But was it a Commodore?
No, it wasn't. No, it's not. It wasn't the Commodore. It was other stuff. So yeah, what are we talking about tonight, Rabbi
Tonight,
Pesach?
we have a huge night tonight. You would have seen an advertisement that we put on our on Facebook, all throughout Facebook. Tonight we are going to get in touch with. Hopefully they'll pick up the phone, and they haven't done some digging about what you and I do on a regular basis, Harry. But
maybe they haven't. They'll answer the phone anyway.
As representatives of the Jewish Australian media.
I don't know about you. I have not been formally deputised.
No, really? You're sitting behind the panel. You can do whatever you want.
Only because you refuse to.
It's a de facto status.
We really do need a producer.
So we have advertised that we are going to be speaking to, hopefully, the charge d'affaires of... Is that how you pronounce it? Charge d'affaires.
Charge d'affaires.
Charge d'affaires. Of Ukraine in Australia. Yep. Actually, I think it's in Melbourne. So I'm not sure if he's at the embassy in Canberra or if he's there's a consulate in Melbourne. So it's the charge d'affaires. And then if we haven't
created an international incident by then,
then we are going to be talking to. Have we gone live, by the way, on Facebook?
Yeah, we've been live for a while.
Then we're going to be talking to a counsellor of the ambassador. I can't believe I'm even saying this.
Of the Russian
Of
Federation.
the Russian Federation at the Canberra embassy. and we have their phone numbers, and they've kindly agreed to take our phone call because what do we want to know? Firstly, we want to know, what is all this media hype going on? Is there anything to it?
Well, yeah, that's a big question. I mean, I only found out recently there's been some sort of conflict going on for like 8 or 9 years.
So what is it about? A few years ago, Russia, I'm not sure if this word is diplomatically appropriate.
Who we wish to be speaking to later,
but,
whether, yes, the word invaded
Russia
would be a good word to use.
took over Crimea, which had been part of Ukraine for quite some time. And then, and now in recent current affairs, we hear from mainstream media, exactly, that that they have massed troops, Russia, on the border with Ukraine.
There's something like 130,000 troops.
So is that story true? And are they poised for serious incursion, perhaps?
What's the purpose of it?
And does Ukraine have the capacity to? I mean, really, this is world affairs, and it's hard to know. It's hard to know when we listen to the mainstream media what's real, what's true. Like what's in today's newspaper is going to be in next week's garbage, and it's all rubbish.
Well, what is it? Yesterday's newspaper is today's fish and chip wrapper.
We're also going to be talking about Alex Navalny.
Yes.
Which is related to the Russian incident, sort of.
Yes.
About speaking your mind, which you and I firmly believe in. We're going to talk about Meatloaf, maybe just briefly. Should we talk about Meatloaf briefly? If we've got time at the end.
You met him?
No.
So what's there to discuss? Like, you've either heard the music or you haven't.
Yeah, well, it's something like a bat out of Wuhan. And then...
Oh!
And then finally, before you hit the big button, we're going to talk about leftist gender theory and about whether why are we talking about?
You know what? We seem to be talking about this every single week.
I want to know whether affirmative action is racism.
According to, I think affirmative action is, when it's applied
Let's talk about it.
When it's applied to race, is racism.
I've got a question for you about it.
But
a specific
why is it
question.
such a big chunk of the zeitgeist?
We'll get there.
When there's hardly anyone.
And by the way, if you have a question that you'd like to ask one of the Ukrainian and Russian representatives, send us a message on Facebook or
through our live stream,
or even give us a call on. What's our number?
9069 2087.
Enjoy listening to J-Air? Support us and become a member by visiting our website, j-air.com.au.
I haven't started sharing.
You haven't started sharing?
I better share.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
And you're supposed to be the sharing and caring one out of the two of us.
Harry, are you serious that the flags of Glenara Council were flying
Glenara
at half
City Council,
mast today?
According to their own Facebook posts, flew the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags at half-mast today.
And on what grounds are they doing that? What am I missing here? I mean, okay, maybe it's obvious. It's because it's Invasion Day.
It's because it's of what today symbolises for people of those communities. But, as you and I have discussed, it seems to be a little bit misguided. And it really makes you wonder, is there any other motive for this than to simply destroy Australia Day? I saw one article that quoted a young activist who, and obviously I'm going to paraphrase here, we will not stop until the ongoing genocide of our people ends. Where are people hunting down our Indigenous Australians, and where can I go to help stop that from happening?
Right.
Because I'll be the first one going out into the bush and say, you know what, fellas, you stand behind me and I'll take care of these idiots for you.
I hear what you're saying. So, in other words, there is nothing going on today. But this is not to say that something may have been going on in the past.
Of course not. I think...
But where we're at today in Australia...
I think we're mature enough as a country. I think we're mature enough as a broader community to say, you know what, there were some real crap things done to our Indigenous peoples.
Yep.
But that's not happening today. And today is the one day when we really should celebrate all the things Australia has become over these last couple of centuries in spite of those bad things.
Absolutely. Right.
In spite of those bad things. We haven't become who we've become because of the bad things.
Yep.
Right?
We started off on a bad foot with insofar as the Indigenous people
In
of
how we treat
Australia.
our Indigenous population.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean...
sickness ran rife. One of the things of my understanding is that a lot of those early explorers that we laud in the history books actually went out with guns and ammunition and shot a lot of them.
Probably.
Maybe they
there are
did.
stories. Is it there's a property out, is it Swan Hill, called Darling Downs, where the tour, I'm pretty sure as a kid we did the tour of this homestead and whatever, it's this massive house with a turret on the top. And back then, I mean, I'm going back to the late 80s,
Yep.
where the tour guides would tell people that, on a Sunday morning, the family would all get dressed and jump in their buggies and go down to the church in town, and then they'd come back, have Sunday lunch, and then take pot shots at the local Aborigines who were living in the area down by the river.
That's extraordinary.
Up from the turret. Now, that's just a case of individuals just being really crap people. But, these days, again, if you can show me where the systemic racism is, the systemic genocide is, I will do my absolute level best to step in and go and fight for you. Right? But until such time as you can actually show me evidence that these things still exist, I can't do anything to help you. And if you have anything to say on that topic, 90692087 are the digits to press on your phone, or you can send us a message via Facebook through our live stream that you can find at JAir. What have we changed the name of the Facebook page to?
I don't know. It's some long thing.
Okay, you can find. Yeah, you
JAir
can find
the
it
right
at
stuff.
JAir the right stuff. 88
Or is
FM
it the right
Wednesday
stuff,
9
JAir?
PM.
What happened with this Grace? Is it
Grace Tame.
Tame?
Yes, Grace by name,
She
clearly
was last
not by
year's
nature.
Australia Day.
Yeah, Australian of the Year.
Australian of the Year.
Excuse me.
And now, I saw some of the sideways glances she was giving our Prime
She just
Minister.
acted like a spoiled brat. You know what? She acted just as poorly. If you remember a few years ago, Adam Goodes was Australian of the Year, and his speech basically was addressing down to the whole country about how racist we all are, right? This girl basically was an obnoxious snot with no grace whatsoever.
Yeah.
No grace
does
whatsoever.
make you
No
wonder-
appreciation for where she was and where she had been elevated to. And the thing that really annoys me is you see all these feminists jump on board. Again, we seem to be talking about this stuff every week. But, feminists go, oh, it was so good to see her standing up for herself and whatever. No, she wasn't standing up for herself. She was being a spoiled brat. If the Prime Minister had actually said or done anything to her personally, or had acted in a way that really got her ginger up, for want of a better phrase right now, then she should have spoken
Do you know
to
why?
that point. But just to go in there glaring
Do you
at him
know-
and snarling and whatever else, just because you may not like him as an individual, he's the Prime Minister, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
You just go, good morning, sir. Yep,
Right,
lovely to see you again. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
treat-
Bye-bye.
you treat
Bye-bye.
people
Do I have to keep
respectfully.
smiling? My cheeks are killing me.
Yeah. You treat people respectfully, even if you disagree with them or there's something that's happened in between the two of you.
Yep.
But you treat people, especially if you're going to be the person who is meant to symbolise all of Australia. I mean, Australia, certainly, we don't give sideways glances to people generally, except when we're engaged in road rage or something like that. But we're generally good people and we're friendly. G'day, mate. And you're really stuffed up on this one sort of thing, and we're straight out and we're no double talking, sort of, no double speak.
Yep.
So maybe, you know what? Maybe we should have got in contact with her and said, what was that all about?
What's the story? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, like,
the
what
rest
was
of the
on your
media seem to be
mind?
handing ScoMo over it.
Do you know
all day
if she had any
I haven't heard
interviews
of
in the
any
last
state-
24 hours
No, I
about
haven't.
all of this?
Haven't heard of anything.
It would have been nice to have heard from her.
Well, you're the one who manages to get all the resources we need.
Isn't so? She's supposed to. When she was first made Australian of the Year, it was because she was a leading advocate in regard to sexual
sexual
relations.
assault and supporting
in-
people who are suffering trauma from.
Right.
Which, highly commendable cause.
Right. If she's acting as an active advocate for that and an
That's
activist
right.
for people.
But I don't think she did the cause any justice yesterday.
No, I wonder if she actually did do the cause any justice throughout the year. I mean, you're expected to, as an Australian of the Year, to be representative. You're expected to stand up and say important things that are important to our society. Did she? I hope she did.
Oh, definitely.
Because if she has anything negative to say to the Prime Minister, maybe it's actually a reflection on herself that maybe she felt she didn't do a good enough job.
Maybe so, but at the end of I think the bigger issue is the example that it sets for young people. And a lot of people wanted to turn this into a male-female thing, a feminist, anti-feminist sort of thing. I just see it as someone who is being incredibly rude and petulant, that if it was my kid, one of my kids,
Yeah.
if I saw that,
You'd get them on
by
the phone straight
by the time
away.
they got home,
Yeah.
you know, or when they got home, they'd be getting an absolute
Ear
pockets
bashing.
kicking,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't behave that way. You know, I know it's not going to happen, right? But, for example, if I was awarded something from the government, right? That's the biggest joke of the night. If I got and I had to go and be presented by Chairman Dan for whatever reason, you know, you got two choices. Either decline the honour,
Yep.
right, like John Lennon did with his OBE,
Or
right?
like Marlon Brando did at the Oscars.
Or like Marlon Brando did at the Oscars, or you go and you play nice.
Yeah.
You can't go and then say, well, you know, now I'm really shirty with you, and just make everyone uncomfortable. That is not gracious at all. The right stuff.
What's got to do with it? The right stuff. Bit late. Belated. Harry, I am I'm over the moon that finally now all Australians own the Australian flag, the Aboriginal flag. Isn't that great? And you know what? I'm not even sure whether I'm being sarcastic or not. What's wrong? Stop acting like Lurch. What's the problem? There was an Australian
The
flag
problem-
someone created. If you created something, right, and
Okay.
it took on big time and people were using it,
This
you would want your 20 million bucks out of it.
this flag was created
What if someone told you you're a
as...
cunt? You're a cunt.
And you know what? If they could make a commercial go of it, Zamet Gazint to them, right? If you're asking, wonder if anybody listening is wondering about what Rabbi Pesach has just muttered, the utterances that have been coming from him in the last 10 seconds, it's actually a clothing brand. So you need to just calm the farm, and you can go to www.yorickhUnt.com to buy fully Australian-made garments and support
I don't
local
think we're allowed
businesses.
to push a commercial brand on air, except
Only
that
if
it
it's-
belongs to you.
Only if it's not, as long as it's not alcohol.
Yeah,
It's not
right,
alcohol
isn't
or cigarettes.
Anyway,
I mean, every
to
time
get
there's
back
someone
to the
complains.
point.
Anyway, my point is,
it?
this was designed
rabbi.
to be this was designed to be a tenant under which Aboriginal Australians could stand behind.
The flag.
That flag. It was a symbol that was going to unite all of Australia's indigenous
I think
populations.
it was created around 1971 or something.
Yeah, it's 50 years old.
Okay.
Right? But it was there to unite all of Aboriginal Australians, regardless of whether they were at the northeastern Cape or the southwestern
I
quarter
like
of
the
this
flag.
country.
I think it's a
Look,
great flag.
it's a lovely flag.
Yeah.
And then for the designer to sell the way it
Well,
works.
apparently he was sending legal letters to
He-
people who were using it
But apparently
commercially.
the original designer sold it to a clothing company that he did or didn't. I
or
don't
gave licensing rights
or
to
gave
maybe.
licensing to it or whatever. You know,
Oh, Shlomi's listening. Hello, Shlomi.
if he was really genuine about wanting to do something for his people,
Yep.
he would have gone, you know what? There it is, Zamikazin.
Ah,
You know what? It's like the guys who write open source software. Right? We just want to put it out there. We just want to make this available to people. We're not here to make money out of it. You know, go use it. Only do good with it. And here, this guy, you know, he's apparently they've pursued anyone who's used it in a commercial sense for the last however many
remember
years.
that's what they did with the with the Made in Australia with the kangaroo or something. Or
Yeah.
That was also
Well, you've got to pay.
trademarked.
Well, it is. It's owned by the Made Australia or Australian-made campaign limited, blah, 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 which is actually owned by the Australian government. And you have to pay a fee every year based on your turnover and yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Because up until recently, Yorick had it on their website until we
Don't
decided.
we get a letter?
Well, we got a letter to say, well, you haven't paid your renewal because honestly, it just wasn't worth our while. We're not.
It's a lot of money.
Not really, not in the big scheme of things. But you know, when you sell 15 T-shirts a year and you pay a starting fee of $300 for the year to put the Australian-made logo, I can put in any sort of text or any font or use any other logo I want, as long as I don't use that logo on the website.
I wonder if when we
I
first
think-
had the Australian flag, whether they paid money to a marketing company to create the Australian flag,
I
and
don't.
how much they paid for it in today's
Well,
terms.
was it? No, I think the Australian flag was designed through competition.
Oh, I think you're right.
I think
Maybe
there was
you're
a
right.
design
Yeah, that might be
competition for
something.
the Australian
Could have
flag,
been, yeah.
and any sovereign flag is free of copyright,
Yeah.
I believe. If you're a copyright legal, give us a call on 906 920 just to confirm that what we've spoken about so far is correct in terms of copyrights and trademarks and all that sort of stuff. So,
I'm giving Harry a bit of a wind up there because I've decided we're going to go a little bit early and make the most of the time we've got. And Harry's going to call, hopefully, he's going to call the charged affairs of the Ukraine embassy. And his name is Vladimir Shalkivsky. And we'll see if you don't have to pick it up. We're already on. Harry, we're on. It's all good.
it worked.
Yeah, well done. We weren't sure, everyone, whether this would work, but we'll see if Vladimir picks it up. If he doesn't
Hello?
hello. My name's Paul Steinberg, calling from JA The Right Stuff. I was wondering if I could speak to Vladimir Shalkovsky, please.
No, I think you have the wrong number.
Oh, really? That's interesting. All right. Thank you very much. Sorry
Would you
about
like to
that.
talk
Okay.
about
Sorry.
Eastern
Sorry.
European politics? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Let me try. let me
Hang on.
try this again.
Oh, we're having so much fun already.
Yeah.
Do you want me to check that phone number, Harry?
I
Here.
can't remember the right.
Here, here's the
Hold on.
number.
Right, 1, 0. How do I
Yeah,
do
don't
it?
say it out loud.
Oh.
Press line 1. No, the one above that. Hang up the phone.
Okay. No.
Oh, Harry, press
Stop.
that.
Oh, I got to press the off button here.
that's
We
what-
so need a producer.
Where's the producer when
If
you
you'd-
need them?
If you'd like to be a producer for us, I've lost the number.
Okay. By the way, I got my new book was released on Amazon, which is called the Rum Bum Codex. Oh, line 1. Don't say the numbers.
I'm not.
Okay.
All right, is that coming through? Yes.
And it sounds like the same ringing. It's going to be
But
the
it's a-
same one.
No, it's not, because there's a number you've got
Oh, yeah?
back to front.
Did I?
Yeah.
Hello, is that Vladimir?
Hello, yes.
Hi, Vladimir. This is Paul Steinberg from The Right Stuff on J-Air, 88 FM. Firstly, thank you for agreeing to receive our phone call. I'm also with my co-presenter, Harry.
Good evening, Vladimir.
Yes.
do you mind us talking to you now about the situation going on in Ukraine?
Yes, of course.
Oh, thank you very much. So just for our listeners and for our Facebook listeners that we're going live now, Vladimir, I believe you are the Charge d'Affaires of the Ukraine Embassy in Australia. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So again, thank you very much. We see in the media over the last number of weeks, maybe it's as much as maybe a couple of months now, we've been seeing that that the Russian troops are building up on the border of the border with Ukraine, and we'd like to know, Harry and I and our listeners, we'd like to know more, please, if you've got any information about what is about the truth behind what's going on in that region.
Well, the situation still tense because Russia continues to build up to reinforce its military units along the border with Ukraine. It's actually our eastern border, and from the south we have illegally occupied the next peninsula, Crimea, that was taken by force by Russia in 2014.
Right.
During last week, Russia started to send their troops to neighboring Belarus. We have border with Belarus to the north.
Yeah.
And they also started new military drills.
What is a military drill?
They're trying to speculate that this is some kind of warning or something else to Ukraine, but it's a kind of dangerous game because to keep armada of 100,000 plus military personnel during winter time in the field, there is something behind it, and there is some kind of goal, yes.
Yeah.
And
are there people that live in that region along that border area, or is it empty area?
Well, there are obviously people living in those areas, but probably you have seen in the satellite images of the Russian military units and their tanks and military machines that stationed in not far from the border. So, of course, it's worrisome to us, but we live under the ongoing military threat from Russia for already 8 years, and we actually have active military conflict with Russia.
Consistently active.
So may I ask, is there currently there's current military interaction, but it's now looking as though there's going to be an escalation of that. Is that correct?
We have the area that is called the Donbass, and again in 2014, after Russia annexed Crimea, they sponsored and sent troops actually to this area to initiate pro-Russian fighting with regular Ukrainian troops. And we have for 8 years, we have shelling and fighting that is going on at this area.
So what does
every day?
So what does your, for example, you probably have family in Ukraine. I was privileged to be in Ukraine and Kiev in 2020. I just had a quick visit there. What does the average person, your family, what are they saying about what's going on, or are they just getting on with life as usual?
Well, first of all, there is no panic on the ground, yes, because this threat from east, I cannot say that we get used to it, but we live with the everyday news information that we have that Russian pro-Russian forces fired to the Ukrainian troops, and there were casualties, stuff like this. So, of course, it is worrisome, yes, and it is dangerous when you have more than 100,000 troops at your border. But it's not possible to live under the constant stress, and you get used to it to some extent.
So at this stage, sorry to interrupt again, Vladimir. If at this stage of this tension, what would you say to the Russian Federation? What would be the best way forward in order to achieve some sort of peaceful resolution?
The first step needs to be taken, and it's very simple. In order to de-escalate, the Russian leadership have to give order to pull the troops back to their barracks, where they station permanently, in order to have constructive conversation. Because it's difficult to negotiate when you have such significant amount of troops on your border. So it's very simple. There is no threat from Ukraine to Russia.
Right.
And that is why our president proposed to have any kind of
dialogue
meeting that will be relevant and suitable for the international community to negotiate, including Russia. But since the negotiations already started at the level of U.S., Russia, NATO, Russia, it was very important for us that there shouldn't be any agreements on Ukraine without Ukraine. It means that, we believe that there is no way in 21st century you can one country can decide for another about their future.
Well,
there is no way you can cross on the map lines of spheres of influence.
Yeah. There is a long conversation we could sit down and have a slivovitz over for many an hour. Vladimir, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Vladimir.
We certainly wish you, your family, everyone in the Ukraine all the best. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to you soon and you'll have some great news for us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking our call. All the best.
All the best. Bye.
You're listening to J-Air, Jewish Australian Internet Radio. J-Air broadcasts to Caulfield and nearby suburbs on 87.8 FM, as well as
88 FM.
streaming online at
88.
j-air, that's air.com.au.
That's a very old promo I put in the lineup, isn't it?
How do you think? What's your reflection on that, Harry?
Well, as I say, I only learnt recently that there's been conflict over the last 8 years.
Didn't he say 80 years?
8.
Oh, I thought it was 80.
You've got to learn to listen through accent.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, the last 8 years there's been conflict, but I think it's escalating now because Ukraine wants to become a member of NATO. The Russians don't want Ukraine becoming a member of NATO for whatever reason. I mean, just because they become a member of NATO.
Oh, is that a lot of
automatic-
what it has to do with?
This is what I'm hearing. So now, and the thing is, when I learnt that there's been a conflict for 8 years, why all of a sudden is it being foisted? Like, how long has it been going on? I understand Russia now has, I think it's 130,000 troops stretched along the eastern border, and they've set up field hospitals and God knows whatever else. They're
getting ready.
So generally, you don't need to set up field hospitals to run drills.
I
right?
think
the other thing
we should
that
find out
Vladimir
some of
said-
these truths, some more truths from
The
the
other
Russian
thing
people.
that Vladimir said that really got me thinking just now is
Yes.
they're doing this in the middle of winter.
Yes, that is interesting.
So from a logistical point of view,
Much
it's an
harder.
absolute nightmare. You've got to keep your troops warm. You've got to keep them fed.
Fed,
There's much,
yeah.
it's more than just, here's a couple of sangers and a bottle of water.
And the roads
Out-
are in bad condition.
Out you go. It's really. I mean, let's face it. The Germans lost the war because of the Russian winter.
that
Well,
right?
that was a big part of it because little Adolf decided to keep on going east.
Not that we're comparing
and
anyone
ran
to,
into-
to Germany or
No,
Hitler.
I'm not. No, but just from a military strategy, forget political ideology, but from a military strategy point of view, you'd rather be fighting in the spring or the autumn than
So-
you would the summer or the winter.
Before we go on, sorry.
So I found that's a really interesting, pricks my ears, just made my ears prick up and start trying to understand what's going on there.
Let's have a.
And the other
yeah.
question I have now is why is there something going on in the United States that all of a sudden Joe Biden's getting involved in international affairs?
Okay, well, don't you think we should ask some questions to Russia as well?
I think that's probably a good idea.
And we have their phone number.
We
and
do.
We'll give Anton Shirva, the
Shirva.
counsellor of the Embassy of Russia, of the Russian Federation in Canberra, a phone call. And hopefully he'll pick up the phone and we'll ask him some basic questions.
All right, wait. That should be ringing through. I can't believe we get this one.
Hello?
Hello, is that Anton?
Yeah, that's me.
Hello, Anton. This is Paul Steinberg from The Right Stuff JAir 88 FM in Melbourne, and you're currently live on air with myself and my co-presenter
Evening, Anton.
and my co-presenter Harry Grave. He doesn't
Privyet,
know-
Kagdala.
Good evening. Good
Good
evening,
evening.
Paul. Good evening, Harry. Harry, you asked how I'm doing. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. And I also would like to take this opportunity to extend my compliments to you and all JAir audience on the occasion of Australia Day.
That's very nice. Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much.
Yes.
Very kind.
If only
When
all
it-
Australians would celebrate it the way you do.
Yes, we thank you for wishing us a happy Australia Day. Is there a special Russian day? When is that? I wonder if
Russian National Day is on the 12th of June.
12th of June. All right, we'll have to give you a call back on the 12th of June then.
Please.
Or we'll just rock up at the embassy and expect the drink.
Anton, you know why we're calling you on behalf of ourselves and our listeners. We're interested to hear about a bit more about what's going on with the conflict or the tension rising in between the Belarus and the Ukraine border, and what we hear about in the mainstream media, and if there's any what the truth to it all is, what you can fill us in on from your point of view, from the Russian Federation's point of view. We would love to hear from you, please.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your interest in the Russian point of view of the situation. Well, first of all, I would like to say that what is going on, that the Western and Ukrainian media have become more active in speculation on so-called Russia's imminent invasion of Ukraine. This is how they portray it.
Yep.
But there is no Russian aggression at all. Russian troops, they are on the Russian territory. There is neither a decision nor an intention to go to war with Ukraine. And you see the way this situation is portrayed to the Australian public, for example, misses some crucial points. First of all, some historical background. Ukraine is a multi-ethnic country with a huge Russian and Russian-speaking population. After the West-supported coup in Kyiv in February 2014, the residents of Crimea and Donbas region chose not to live under new ultra-nationalistic, xenophobic government, threatening their cultural identity and even safety. As a result, Crimea reunited with Russia and Donbas declared independence. After that, Kyiv unleashed a civil war against them. And this is...
So you're talking about the Crimea issue from about 5 or 6 years, 2014, is that correct?
Yeah, 2013-14.
2014, yes.
2014.
It's when the civil war in Donbass was, right?
Yes.
And there was some mechanism to settle this internal conflict in Ukraine. It was the Minsk arrangements of 2015. They provided for a negotiated special status for Donbass, making sure that the rights of the residents are respected. But ever since, Kyiv, in connivance with the West, was trying to get rid of Minsk arrangements and suppress Donbass by force.
If I may, sorry to do that. Sorry to do that to you, Anton. But if I may ask, Ukraine, as you say, is a multi-ethnic nation. It is a sovereign. It is a sovereign nation. Is there a large population? Although there's a large Russian-speaking population, are there a large number of Russian citizens that you're concerned for their safety? Is that why there's been this tension there?
Russia, sorry.
No, please continue.
Please go on. Yeah, what I wanted to say that what Russia is worried of is the possibility of ethnic cleansing in the eastern part of the Ukraine. That is, this possibility Russia is really worried of. And so I mentioned this historical background, that is that the Australian public, when it hears about this situation, is not hearing of. And the other thing is that the Western countries, together with Ukrainian armed forces, are building up military activity there in the immediate proximity to the Russian borders. And these activities is scaling up. There are 10 military exercises are expected for this year.
Right.
Armed forces of Ukraine, they continue shelling the civil population in the east of the country. There are some figures from OSCE Special Monitoring Mission.
So would that be
fire violations?
So effectively, there's a civil war occurring in the Ukraine that the Russian Federation is now looking at stepping in at quelling. Is that what this is?
Well, concern for the safety of the Russian cultural people in Ukraine.
But again, it would be like.
Of course,
Go on, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, of course, Russia is worried about that, and the civil war, the active part of it, took part in 2014. But after that, there were Minsk arrangements. But as I've said, Kyiv is trying to get rid of Minsk arrangements and to suppress Donbass by force.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are multinational exercises going on in. I think you said in parts of Ukraine. Is that something to do with also NATO coming on board potentially in the Ukraine as well?
Well, as I've just mentioned, that NATO countries, together with Ukrainian armed forces, are scaling up military exercises in the immediate proximity of the Russian Federation.
Right.
And if I may ask, if this is all about a humanitarian concern, would petitioning, and please, I don't want to sort of get things out of hand, but my international diplomacy experience is virtually nil. But petitioning and going to the UN to actually put together a multinational peacekeeping force, which is generally what's done when there are humanitarian crises, instead of one nation just sort of taking it upon itself.
Well, there is Minsk process that I mentioned, and it has been endorsed by UN Security Council.
Right.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
And if just finally, I'd like to. I have a quick question, and that would be, if Russia could do anything for this situation not to continue, where there are forces being built up on both sides, military exercises on both sides of the border, what do you think the next step would be in the best interests of everybody?
Well, I think the stop of the aggressive propaganda against Russia, portraying Russia as aggressor, and also implementations of Minsk arrangement or Minsk process in relation to the situation in Donbass in the eastern Ukraine.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight, Anton.
Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you very much, Anton.
All the best.
Yeah.
The right stuff. Oh, I got the.
There
honor
you
that
go.
time.
You got the covered.
That was really interesting.
There was a couple of things in there that made me, as a little Red Sea pedestrian in Melbourne, Australia, the progeny of grandparents who.
Yes, go on.
The progeny
This is
of
where I was thinking
grandparents
too. Yep.
who managed to escape Ukraine before a big pogrom.
Do you remember
went
they
through
always
Kiev.
said
Well,
the
I don't,
Ukraines?
because
But do you recall they always said that the Ukrainians were very violently against Jewish people?
Yeah, the Ukrainians, the Latvians. It's
But do you
an
think
Eastern
it's still true
It's an
today?
Eastern European thing. Grab your torch and pitchforks.
Even
it's
in
a
Russia,
Jew.
but in Russia there were. That was Scottish.
It was Shrek.
Oh, was it?
Okay, so
But,
hold on. Before
but
we get
even
off on
in
it,
Russia there were pogroms. So
exactly. But so let me just, before we get off on a tangent, I really want to make this point, and it's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. We've just spoken to the counselor of the embassy to the ambassador in Russia, and he has basically said that the Russian military is stepping up on the border because they're concerned for the safety of cultural Russians living in Ukraine, which is a sovereign country, and as the descendant of grandparents who managed to get out of Ukraine instead of becoming victims of pogroms, and grandparents who managed to survive the camps in Europe. It was the same argument that crazy little heroin addict German used to march into Austria.
Okay.
And I'm not buying it. I thank Anton for his time, if he's still listening, but
we might want to speak to him again. So
I would love
stay
to.
on
I would
good
love to
terms.
speak to him again, because if new information comes to light, but if the Russian line is we're gearing up to move into the Ukraine because we believe there's a humanitarian crisis there and we're going to stop that, you don't need 137,000 or 127,000 troops sitting on the border running exercises in the middle of winter if you're not trying to catch somebody else off guard. Belarus apparently
don't they have some leader that's
pro-Russian.
pro-Russian?
Yeah. This whole thing about Crimea. Well, they decided they're more Russian than they were Crimean. It just doesn't ring true anymore. And I think for people to buy that, as I say, I would love to think that what we're getting is the truth, but I think what we're getting is a version of the truth.
Yeah.
that people would like to become true.
So,
I think,
and it would seem
I thank
from both
Vladimir
sides. It
and
would seem that.
Anton for their time. I think there's a lot of propaganda.
Wouldn't you say that
on
from
both
both sides? Wouldn't you say that they're also both looking for a de-escalation? It sounded to me like at the end of the day, they're both looking for a de-escalation.
Well, I think Ukraine's looking for a de-escalation because Ukraine knows it's going to get its butt handed to it on a platter if the Russians decide to actually move in
But
militarily.
maybe they're right. They've got all these military exercises going on with the multinational forces there.
Well, the Russians. Well,
No, the
Russians are claiming the
Ukrainians.
Ukrainians are.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Maybe
if you've
that's
amassed
true.
127,000 troops, is it 127? Let's call it around about 130,000 troops, and you've set up your field hospitals, and you've got
He
your,
certainly wasn't denying it.
and you've got your
should've asked me about
ICBM,
that.
your mobile ICBM launchers, and your tanks and everything ready to go. You've got planes already sitting in Belarus ready to take off. You've got ships sitting in the
Black
Baltic
Sea.
Black Sea, Baltic Sea, whichever sea it is, ready to start shooting rockets and whatever else.
but it's been
And
like
then
that
you
forever.
expect the country that you're doing this right next door to not to go, hey, fellas, we could use a little bit of help because we're kind of effed here if something actually happens.
Yeah. Have we got a groggy moment? Oh my God, do we need a groggy moment after that?
Well, you know, if we had a groggy moment,
Yes.
if we were allowed to have a groggy moment, because
Don't you agree that this would be a week when we should have one?
it should be a day when we have one.
An Australia Day groggy moment.
But let me just see.
Did it work?
We're always looking for people with an interest in radio.
No.
There it is.
Oh, what a mess.
We got everything going on.
That's a mess and a half.
We're not doing that again.
Yeah, but if I was having a drink tonight, I think I'd be enjoying. What would I like? What would I like? I think Auchentoshen has become my go-to, but I think after a day like today, like a 18-year-old Glenlivet, just something smooth. I find it quite subtle.
Glenlivet.
Something like a Glenlivet. Why? What would you be drinking? Gliver.
Actually,
Gliver.
a couple of weeks ago, we bought some Malibu, which is a coconut tasting
It's
alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind something like that because it kind of cheers you up after speaking to.
Going to Chase's
a
or
Cold
go to
War.
the warehouse on a Sunday night and having a Malibu.
No, it was always Midori
what-
and lemonade. Come on.
Yeah. What were they called?
I can't remember.
Oh, they had a name for them. Anyway, I remember one New Year's Eve. I think I drank 3 of those shakers all on my own.
So, Harry, rest in peace, Meatloaf.
Yes.
And I don't think there's really much to say about that except instead of a bat out of hell, it was a bat out of Wuhan. That did him in, the poor thing.
You don't know. He died with it, not because of it.
Right. Yeah, apparently.
The numbers have been fudged since day one. Don't get me started.
What does it mean Glen 20 kills COVID?
So the Glen 20 ads, so Abe and I were only talking about this evening. The Glen 20 ad says it kills 99% of germs, including COVID-19. And we both looked at each other and went, crop dusters. Like
Just spray it
seriously,
everywhere.
just to have crop dusters flying all over the city, then what do we have to worry about?
They're actually missing out on a big market.
'Cause
Like
if
something
you
that
thought-
gets shoved up your nose, a Glen 20 thing that shoves up your nose.
If
you
you
will not
thought
get
I
COVID.
was putting on a mask today, like I had to go to the tool shop 3 times today, and the first time, like it was, I don't know, I got in, we started at like 9:30 this morning. I said to Abe, you know what, we're going to sleep in a bit, we'll start a bit later. So we get there at 9:30, within 15 minutes it's like, oh, I don't have a tool to do this. You know what, let's just go down the road, grab the tool, we'll be back. First time I walk in the morning, they're going, hey fellas, where are your masks? I go, boys, go and pull your bottom lip up over the back of your
You
head
didn't
and
really
swallow
say
real
that to
hard.
them.
Yeah, because I know them there. So,
But you wouldn't say that to them at Bunnings.
no, at Bunnings I just walk in and the guy says, "Do you need a mask?" And I just say, "No."
No. That's not true. You said that you wear them.
I wear them in the supermarket.
Okay.
I wear them in the because at least the supermarket's air conditioned. But like today,
You're the one
by
that said that
9:30 in
you
the
wouldn't
morning-
take it out on someone who works there.
That's right.
wouldn't
I wouldn't have a go at someone, but I walk into Bunnings and they say, "Do you need a mask?" I say no. They accept it. They're not having a crack at me. I don't have to have a go at them. Anyway, so I walked into the tool shop and I just, boys, like by 9:30 in the morning, it was already like 28 degrees, 38,000% humidity. No way I'm wearing a mask. So yeah, pull your bottom lip up. Come on, Harry. I don't have one on me anyway. And what I want is just there at the end of that shelf. So do what you want. Do what you want about it. By the third time, they didn't even ask me, and they didn't have masks on either. So I'm not going to mention the name of my tool supplier. But if any of the boys are listening, g'day, how you doing? And I'll probably see you 3 times again tomorrow because I'm so poorly organised.
Please, let's just finish off with talking about affirmative action and racism. Please.
Affirmative action and racism.
Yeah.
Affirmative action is racism.
Yes, correct. As in universities in America, there is a legal case mounting that universities are not accepting people based on their merit, and instead and in fact, I think just this week, Jordan Peterson stepped down from his professorship or something at his university.
Really?
Yeah. I was reading about it and I heard
Your book sales are going well.
Because he wasn't. Because he was, his students were not being treated equitably within the university. They were being affirmative actioned against.
Yep.
And he said, "Where's the merit? I mean, these people are absolutely are so full
and
of
I think
promise."
in a lot of cases, it sets people up for failure because what affirmative action does, and it doesn't matter what metric it's applied to, but like in America, this all started at the colleges to get more black kids into colleges. But effectively what it's saying to these kids is, under normal circumstances, you wouldn't be able to prove you have what it takes to do this course, this degree, this whatever it is they call it when they go to colleges. But because of your circumstances, primarily being your race, we're going to turn a bit of a blind eye. We're going to make an exception to that. But then come the other end where you've turned your college into this sausage factory of just churning out degrees, and these kids can't get jobs at the other end because everybody else doing that degree has proven that they're better than them anyway. They're literally setting them up for failure. And
in its day, like let's say in the early mid-60s, there was a case for affirmative action where there were students of ethnic races who were not allowed onto university campuses, into classes, into buildings, into toilets, etc. That's right.
There was a need to break down those barriers. But we've done that.
We've done that. Just like with Australia Day.
That's
right?
it.
It's all behind us.
I'm not saying
and it's a bright, sunny future for everyone.
I'm not saying we've corrected every wrong.
Dwayne's laughing.
I'm not saying we've corrected every wrong, but we have come such a hell of a long way in only the last 60 years.
Yeah.
That's something that we really should be celebrating.
And, we've got one last advert?
No.
Okay, so do you want to just introduce Dwayne for the next program?
Yeah, so coming up in about 2 minutes, we have Dwayne who is presenting Italiano 84. Italo Music 84 because, you write it down because I've got a memory like a sieve. And I feel as though I'm just insulting Dwayne every week. I try and introduce him. But thank you all very much. Sorry to the people that got in touch. Jax Lenny, hello from the other side of Oz. Yeah, you know what, Jax? I'd love to speak to you next
Jax,
week.
next week, give us a call, Jax.
Jax is in jail. I mean, Perth.
And on that note, not responsible.
Goodbye.
Happy Australia Day.
Enjoy.
Smallpox, diphtheria, polio, influenza and other nasties. So simply listen to the common sense about COVID-19. Visit coronavirus.vic.gov.au for a booking. J-Air 88 FM, bringing